Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM and live from Los Angeles. So, every week we have a show called Ask Brien, AskBrien. And every week everybody asks us what the E is about. And we have a gentleman here who is an engineer who begins with an E, and he likes to help out and tell us all about the E's, and one of the main E's that we added on last week, so in case he forgets, that was education. We tried to educate people about business concepts. That's what Ask Brien is all about. And one of the reasons why we go through this process is nobody understands why Brien is spelled with an E, because everybody says, when I grew up, I had a friend, Brien, it was Bryan or Brian, and why you have the name Brien with an E? And we have reasons why we have an E. We just didn't come up with it for no reason at all. And our engineer, who likes to get part in the radio business here, decided to help us out. And without any further ado, how do you spell ado?
A-D-I-E-U.
And why do I love that word?
Because every single letter, minus the D, is a vowel.
I'm sure there are other words.
Oh, Patty, I'm so sad.
I just don't want to give him the satisfaction, Trace.
Don't worry, I control the conversation.
So defeated. Oh, yeah, that's clear, because he's coming across defeated and sad.
Well, this is a
like
positive.
Maybe you should even play our favorite sound effect. Wah, wah.
Well, they don't even have the side effects anymore. I mean, I don't know what happened. They have none of those bells or whistles or anything. You have any of that, Patrick? Dun, 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 dun. Where's that?
Today we can make our own sound effects. How about that?
Well, you should have them
because
ready to go.
If we like them, we'll just create them.
Exactly. We will build them ourselves.
We create everything else. Why not that? So, Patrick, why do we spell Brien with an E?
Well, there's a number of words that are very thematic with Ask Brien that also start with an E. One of them was, yes, education. And to be fair, I wouldn't have remembered that because I'm not part of the repetition yet.
Or you're not educated.
No, I'm definitely educated. My memory seems to forget sometimes, though. But who doesn't?
Well, what are you now, 20, 25 now?
26.
26, yeah.
Close enough, though.
You're definitely having your senior moment.
Okay. Outside of that, empathy is one of the big ones, and he was not being very empathetic right there, folks, so yikes.
But I am.
You are
I don't know.
always empathetic, Tracy.
Why do you say you're empathetic? How are you empathizing with him?
Because I recognized that he felt defeated and sad, and then I offered to collaborate with him on a mutually beneficial sound effect that didn't exist. And,
well, remember, this is a positive show. That's why we have the Rocky theme. That's why we have the antics that we do. This is a positive show. We don't have any depressing.
Right, and I was offering encouragement.
That's a good E, too, by the way. Encouragement.
And enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
That was so weak. That is not enthusiasm. That enthusiasm. I mean, come on, seriously. Enthusiasm, excitement, woo! I mean, come on.
Patty,
get going.
You notice, Patty, you just skipped right over estrogen.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Well, we don't have any of that. We have a lot of testosterone, but not a lot of that. Anyway,
okay. Whatever.
Golly,
I don't even have all the E's.
Tracy, I'm so sorry on behalf. I'm so sorry.
I'm waiting for the E's.
Thank you.
If you can't do it, we'll have Emily do it, who begins with an E.
That is true. She does start with an E.
Well, do you have any other E's? Why we have them?
Yes, we do. You already covered enthusiasm and excitement with that.
I think so.
Yeah, we did empathy, education, experts, because everybody that's on Ask Brien happens to be an expert in their field. Others
how about emerging brands, which is our guest today. Is going to be talking about an emerging brand.
Ooh, I like that too. That's a special one for today.
Well, there's so many E's, but
yes.
You left out one of the most important ones. Experience.
No, I wasn't done yet. It's not like I was done.
You had no idea what you're doing. You were like, I don't know what to do. Let me figure something out.
Listen, it goes out of order. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts. But experience, was definitely one because everybody's very experienced in what they do here on the Ask Brien Show.
What's your experience?
Engineering and talking.
Talking about what?
Talking.
He has a degree in communications. That says something.
What does that mean?
Bingo.
What does that mean? My sister's a dean.
Well, I can tell you because I have one too.
Well,
it means you can talk really well.
Well, my sister is the dean of the communication school at SUNY Binghamton in New York. So I that certainly doesn't increase my abilities to think that it has any great concepts.
Me and Traci can speak very eloquently, and that starts with an E, by the way.
This
Well,
is
and
not.
not to mention your sibling rivalry is not appropriate. It's not our fault you don't like your sister.
You said I didn't like my sister. You
You
just threw something out there.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining about communications, and there's not a lot to it. But our guest has a very, very big E with it. Okay, he is not just the CEO of a great, great company that we're going to get into, but he's also an entrepreneur. And entrepreneur is really what Ask Brien is all about. We are trying to help people, educate people, and teach them how they can create their own business from nothing and make something out of it. So, without any further ado, like to be called Mr. Brooks, or by your first name, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, you can just call me Wade, my first name.
Okay, Wade. You know, if you had an E, it would be better, but we'll go with the W. So, the W, by the way, is good for win, because I like win-win
There you go.
situations. Yes, absolutely. So, Wade, before we get into your product and what you have right now, give us a little bit of your background. You know, we don't need a 50-minute diatribe, but at least give me a couple minutes, at least 1 or 2 minutes about your background, and we can get into the product and what you're selling.
Sure. So I've kind of always run companies, and when I was in college, between my junior and senior year, I started the first Apple computer value-added reseller in the United States, and since then I've been in tech. And then I retired young, and then I went on to become a business school professor in entrepreneurship and venture investing, and did research around angel investor returns. And then I got asked to start a company again. I spent a little time in New Zealand teaching there, and then when I came back, this opportunity presented itself. I was an advisor to LivBars, and as I looked at the product, I thought, this is amazing. Let's raise some money, and let's take this brand nationally. So that's kind of my background.
So LivBars started when?
It started in 2012. It was founded by Jan and Gabe Johansson, and Jan's a nutritionist, and she still is a practicing nutritionist. She didn't mean to start a bar company. She just couldn't find any good bars for her customers down the aisles. They're mostly candy bars, or had candy bar characteristics. And so she made this, and then all of a sudden it started selling like crazy locally. And, they ran it for a number of years, and then really needed some funding to get it off the ground and take it nationally. We're now in all 50 states and Hong Kong. So we've grown quite a bit over the past, even through COVID, over the past year.
So where did they start?
Where?
Geographically, yes.
Salem, Oregon, which is where we still are. We had a little tiny 700 square foot kitchen. We're now in a 14,000 square foot solar powered facility. And it really was 1 or 2 people in the beginning. Even when I came in, it was only really 2 people, and that was in 2018, end of 2018. And we now have about 45 people, so we've grown rapidly. It's a hard industry because of the distribution channel and such, and getting into the stores, the retail stores, but we've had great success.
So when I go down the aisle, there's probably 50 different nutrition bars, from a Cliff bar, which is pretty popular, to a whole bunch of different other bars. And I'm just trying to understand, what's the difference between your bar and the other bars? I mean, you're telling me about the nutritional level. You're talking about, creatively how it differentiates itself. But I just don't understand, with so many different bars out there. I mean, many of them claim to be nutritious. Many of them claim to have 100% of this, or low high fiber, or low this or low that. What exactly is it about your bar that makes it so special?
So that's a great question. There are, last I looked, 152 bar companies on Amazon, not just bars. The main differentiators for us are it's 100% organic, it's gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, dairy-free, GMO-free. And making a bar like that is hard to make something that tastes good. We bake our bars, which 99% of companies don't do, and 99% of the bar companies actually don't make their bars either. We actually make them ourselves. But the recipes that Jan created, these are delicious. Like, it doesn't taste like any other bar you've ever had. So beyond that, it's got a number of superfoods in it, and it's also all real food. So every single thing on the package, you'll know what it is. It's an ancient grated seed bar, so it's going to have sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and all those kinds of things in it. It's not artificially sweetened. It doesn't have chocolate glaze over the top of it like a lot of the bars do. It's crunchy and chewy. It doesn't melt or freeze. So, and also, from an innovation standpoint, it's in the industry's only home compostable wrapper. So wrappers are the fourth largest pollutant. And by using a compostable wrapper, we think that that's important. From a mission vision standpoint, we want the bars to be good for you, good for your family, and good for the planet. And we want to help empower people to make the choices to buy a good, healthy product.
So are you saying that because you claim to be the one of the most nutritious? I mean, every bar that I look at says how healthy and it's a healthy bar and a nutritious bar. And you're right. When I've read the ingredients, it's like I could probably have a Milky Way and probably be in better shape, nutrition-wise. So I'm just trying to understand. How is it that all these companies out there are making these claims to be so nutritious and this is great to have, and if you got to skip a meal, just have the bar. How are they doing that and looking with a straight face?
Yeah, I don't know how much they care about having about being honest. I mean, it is a real problem in our food system in general. I mean, we know that sugar is problematic, causes diabetes, cancer, and yet the sugar industry for a long time, nobody called them out. So there's a lot of powers that be in that space. I know because we've worked with different PR firms over time who we don't work with anymore, but their job was to basically take something that wasn't healthy and tell people it was healthy. To give you an idea, Kind Bar is the largest nutrition bar in the space. They just got bought for $5 billion by Mars Corporation. Mars makes Snickers and M&Ms. So that kind of tells you right where that space is.
Well, of course, M&Ms, Mars and Mars. That's what Mars is. Right. Now, Kind Bar. So, does that have nutritional value on the Kind Bar?
Well, it is. It's more of a candy bar, really. Right. I mean, it's chocolate glazed. It's got a lot of sugar in it. It has nuts, but it really is more on the candy side than it is on the nutrition bar side. And that's with most of them. And so part of what we feel our obligation is to educate people about all this kind of industrial food complex things that people are saying are good for you. But when you really look beneath the wrapper, it really is just a candy bar.
Okay, so you came in the company, 2018 or 2017? Or 19?
2018.
2018. So when you came to the company, how many people were working there? Approximately.
Really one.
Okay.
One plus me.
All right. And now you have a 14,000 square foot spot, and you've got a lot of, 40, 45 people working for you. So how did you grow the business? I mean, obviously, when you've got 1, 2 people, that's quite a jump to get to 40, 45 in a couple of years. How did you do that?
Yeah, so we had a lot of things going for us already that would have taken a lot of time to do. We had the recipes were already done, the packaging, the branding, that stuff was good to go. What we really needed to do was grow distribution, grow our manufacturing capability, grow our bakery, and add people and get basically from a local Salem, we're in Salem, Oregon, into stores from Salem, Oregon, into stores on a national level. In part, it's a very, very hard thing to do in this space, but you have to raise money to do it. It's possible to do it over a very long period of time without raising money, but part of the reason for me coming in was looking at this as an opportunity and saying, this can be an awesome big national brand. You just need some money. And so we raised a couple different rounds of money. I think so far we've raised about $4 million. And so that helps you grow. It helps you get in distribution. It helps you bring in the right people to help make your sales pitches, to help get the equipment you need to manufacture the product. So that's the trajectory that we're on.
And how many stores are you in right now?
We're in a couple thousand doors. We're in every state of the nation and Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Most people they would say they'd be in Canada or Mexico, or Europe. I mean, Hong Kong is like kind of a completely different area. I mean, how do you even get the product to Hong Kong?
I'll be honest with you. I don't even know how this happened. We have a broker somewhere who has some store that they know the people who are there, and they ship the product off, and we sell in Hong Kong. So it's an anomaly. It's not something that we went after. I would say for most brands, going international is a huge complication and not something you really want to do initially. Even in Canada, you have to have the labels in 2 languages, so it does make it harder.
And where are your facilities? Because, again, being in Oregon and then shipping to Maine and Florida has got to be difficult. So do you have distribution centers in other places or manufacturing places that can much more easily distribute, or how does that work?
Yeah, in the natural food channel, there are 2 very large companies that manage most of the distribution, UNFI and KHTS. And so we're in every DC of both of those distributors. And so they have, between 8, I think one of them has 8 or 9 big facilities, and the other has 30. And so we ship to all of those distribution centers. We don't have to ship to each one of the retailers, although we do that for some people.
And the type of stores you're in, are we talking about the local natural food store, or are we talking about, Whole Foods and Kroger? I mean, what kind of stores are you in?
Yeah, so we are in Whole Foods in the Pacific Northwest region. Our biggest account is Sprouts. So Sprouts is 364 doors in 24 states. And then we're in all kinds of natural food stores all across the United States. We're in some convenience stores. We definitely have talked to Kroger numerous times. We're in the process of talking to 7-Eleven right now. But, it's a high-end product, and so it's a premium product, and so mostly it's natural food stores. And then as we get bigger, we'll move into grocery and convenience.
And does, what's the shelf life of a bar?
It's a year, in part because we cook them. That helps the shelf life.
Yeah, that was an interesting point. You said, so you bake them, and most people do not. So if they're not baking them, how are they making these bars?
Yeah, they use heated up rollers for the candy components, the sugar components of it. We've talked to co-packers before. The expense of having a co-packer bake a bar is just crazy. I mean, it adds another 50 cents or $1 to a bar. It just makes it unpalatable for people by the time it gets to retail. But the thing about cooking is, we cook food because it makes it taste better. So in our case, it does not taste like any other bar you've ever had. We do it all the time. We go to shows. You have all these big buyers for these huge companies. You make your pitch, and they kind of look at you like, yeah, I've heard it all before. And then they taste it. Their faces light up, and they're like, yeah, this really doesn't taste like any I've ever had. We're like, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, the engineer here is salivating, and he's saying, when am I going to get my bar? So I guess we're going to have to send some to Patrick, because he just can't wait to get some. But because he'll have to taste it and really take you up on that offer. We're going to be taking a break, and we'll be right back on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Thank you, Wade.
Green Thumb International has the widest variety of shrubs, flowering plants, and gardening supplies in the Santa Clarita Valley. This week in your garden, with the arrival of fall comes one of the year's most important annual color planting times. Color season annuals planted now will continue to bloom throughout the spring. Everything for your yard and garden is right here at Green Thumb on San Fernando Road near Sierra Highway. Green Thumb puts the green in your thumb.
Facey knows life gets busy. Let us go to work for you in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have 34 primary care physicians and 55 specialty doctors in 4 offices. And Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS with some extended hour appointments available. We are Facey Medical Group. Let us go to work for you today. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
This is Jill from the Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to our 4,655 families in the SCB community. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website at santaclaritagrocery.org or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Olive Terrace Bar and Grill is the hottest new Mediterranean fusion restaurant in Santa Clarita with unique delicacies like seafood right off the boat, mouth-watering prime steaks, artesian sandwiches, delicious pastas, and tasty kebabs. Unwind on their cozy outdoor patio at their weekend champagne brunch, full menu, and weekly specials at oliveterracebarandgrill.com. Check out their full bar and happy hour daily specials in Valencia on Copper Hill and Newhall Ranch Road by LA Fitness. Olive Terrace Bar and Grill, delicious food seasoned with love.
Welcome, folks, to the Backyard Masterpiece Podcast. We have Tom here, a first-time DIYer, talking about the multi-tiered rose garden he planted in his yard. How did you begin this masterpiece?
Well, the first thing I did was make the call.
The call?
Yes, to 811. I knew my project required digging, so I had SoCal Gas come and mark my natural gas lines.
Pro tip, take notes, people. Always contact 811 by phone or online 2 business days before you dig.
Yep.
Visit SoCalGas.com/811 to learn more.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the Law Office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the Law Office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
Mark Schneider and daughter Kaylee for Pacific Air.
Okay, team. I called this meeting to look at new ways we can super serve our Pack Air customers. Matt, what do you got for us this week?
We're educating customers about how to improve their comfort and lower their energy bills by investing in better attic insulation. The Department of Energy reports that homeowners can be more comfortable and reduce heating and cooling costs by up to 50% just by improving their attic insulation. That's why Pacific Air's team created the WOW Comfort Attic Package. Our WOW Comfort Attic Package is a 4-step attic solution to help solve the problem of poor attic insulation.
Great. I love the way we're always educating and improving our WOW service that we give our customers. Remember, team, here at Pacific Air, our goal is to always give service so good, they're going to say, okay, Kaylee.
Wow! For the guys in the orange truck, that's Pacific Air. When you want the best, call Pacific Air.
For questions about our WOW Comfort Attic Package and your attic, contact us today at pacair.com. PACAIRE.com. Remember, without the E, it's just air.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM, the Ask Brien radio show. Every Thursday, we're here and we try to educate people on any business available concept. And today we have not just an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur who's actually done it both on his own, built his own businesses, has been a professor teaching other people how to do it, and is now the CEO of a very big company called LivBar. Is it LivBar or LivBar? Because it almost sounds like LivBar, even though it's LivBar.
Yeah, it's LivBar. We get that a lot.
So, ever thought about adding an E?
No, that's all LivBar. We try to come up with little catchphrases like eat, live, play, things where It kind of forces you into saying it the right way.
Well, plus E is a very important aspect of Ask Brien. So that was the other reason why I
There you
asked
go.
about the E. Not just live or live, but Ask Brien with an E. So the engineer is like, I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of just hanging out there. So I guess he's not even listening to us. So we could make all the jokes we want about him. He's doing something. I don't know. He's trying to pretend he's working. Yeah, I got it. Okay. He is working. He's probably doing another assignment for class. Okay, gotcha. No problem. Anyway, Zach! All right, we're back.
Oh, good Lord.
Good Lord? No, that's not his name, Mr. Brooks.
Was that necessary? I just want to ask, was that really necessary? Did that add value?
It was absolutely necessary because I wanted to see if the engineer was paying attention. I want to make sure he was awake. We don't want him to fall asleep now. Anyway, let's get back to your story, though. What do you find is a difference? You've done both sides. You had your own company, then you taught people in school, and now you're the CEO of the company. What's the difference between learning about it in a book and actually doing it?
So entrepreneurship is one of those things where you really need to do it to understand it. I equate it to Kung Fu. So if you're going to learn a martial art, you can't really, there's some things you can learn in a book, but you really have to be out on the mat practicing to really pick it up. And so when you're teaching entrepreneurship, at least when I was, you want to get the students out talking to entrepreneurs. I had a class where they had to start a company. If they got to an arm's length transactional revenue in the class, they would get an A. It's harder than it sounds. And so when I had an angel investment fund, the first university angel investment fund in the United States also, where we went out and raised $1 million and had our students invest in startup companies, and they actually had to run a fund. Like they had to go do all of the research and due diligence and make the investment decisions. So it's a lot of activity as opposed to book learning.
And is it possible to be an entrepreneur and only work 40 hours a week?
I haven't found that to be the case. There's certainly the very famous 4-hour work week book. Yeah.
Absolutely. Although comedy doesn't start with an E. But all right, so Traci wants to ask some questions a little bit more serious than she thinks I was. Even though those are very serious questions I asked. Very important questions.
They were very serious questions. They were very entrepreneurial-focused questions. But
Exactly.
that last one just killed me because I bet Ken Ferris, who wrote the 4-hour work week, didn't even work 4 hours. So, but really good branding on that book, which is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about. So we talked about the spelling and the pronunciation of the name of the bar. Do you utilize the story of it's Jan and her husband, right? In terms of
Yep.
Do you utilize that in marketing? How are you differentiating yourself on just a base level and also on creative and innovative level to really stand out among the sea of many, many competitors that you have?
Yeah, we do. Definitely, we talk about Jan and Gabe. Jan is the founding force, the creative force behind the bars, and a lot of the philosophy of having everything be organic, real food. And then now we just recently, as of 2 weeks ago, moved everything to vegan. We pulled honey out of the bars and made a couple other minor changes. Also having it low allergen. But part of their story was they were not very healthy, and they really needed to make a lifestyle change when they were younger. And her husband, Gabe, had lots of allergies. And so part of this was saying, look, we need to make a change. We need to move to go to healthy stuff. Let's dig into that deeply, and then let's help other people do the same thing. From a marketing perspective, we do have a message from Jan on all of our boxes about the story that they went through. And quite frankly, they did a great job with the company. It was amazing. It was just the next iteration where, and I see this a lot with new brands and small brands and people who created a product in their kitchen. Getting from there to getting to becoming a national brand is really hard. If you want to learn entrepreneurship, the best way to do is go start a company. But if you want to scale, that's where going and getting an MBA is helpful.
But if you're going to start a company, you need a lot of money.
Well, yes, but before we get to that, so with the, were you helpful in, because a lot of times entrepreneurs make the mistake of really just staying in that leadership role, being the founder and the CEO, taking on all the responsibilities that both of those roles are required to handle. But it sounds like in an early stage with this particular company, there was a very clear separation between the founders and you being the CEO. Did you help with that transition? Was that something that they were eager to do? Was it a difficult transition?
Yeah, that's always super hard. I had that problem with my first companies when I started them too, which is as they start getting bigger, I mean, you're doing everything. It's hard to trust other people, and it's hard to get the right people, the people around you where the things you're not good at, you can find people who are good at them and then trust them to do it. In this case, there was another person who was one of their marketing people, and so they kind of, Jan and Gabe's other careers started taking off, and they transitioned it a little bit to him. And then I came in, and they transitioned it to me. I was a consultant or advisor to the company for 6 months before I came in, and there was issues with everybody wanting to let go of control and being okay with changes that had to be made. It's just a really hard thing, especially when it's your baby, to be like, look, this is great, but we need to change this, and we need to move off of, we were selling primarily on Amazon. We need to get into the retail space. It's going to cost money, slotting fees and free fills and a bunch of other stuff, and we need to go in that direction. And then anytime you change anything that has to do with branding, messaging, press releases, and getting everybody to buy off on this is the direction, that's hard. Part of this company is that it is a little bit of a rebel message that we have, that is the industrial food complex is lying to you, and they've been feeding you crappy food for a long time, and we want to expose that and show people what real good food is. And that's one of the messages that they had originally. It's easy to get away from because big corporate America is like, we don't want you talking about bad stuff, but we want to maintain that kind of homegrown grassroots messaging and ethos that we have.
Well, from a marketing perspective, though, is there a challenge between basically coming from the perspective of expose and, revealing, going up against the big brands to say, hey, their marketing and their messaging says one thing, but their product delivers something else, while at the same time trying to maintain this mom-and-pop homegrown image, because they really serve two masters if you think about it.
Yeah, well, our bars are still handmade. We make them, we roll them, hand roll them, do the whole thing. There was something that happened, it was about just before COVID, where Cliff Bar had called out Kind Bar, took out a whole full page in the New York Times saying, we challenge you guys to go organic. Now, Cliff Bars aren't organic. I mean, they're maybe 50% organic. And so we tagged on that and said, look, we challenge you both to go all organic, and we challenge both of you to use compostable wrappers. And that we got into their news cycle, so that was kind of fun, and it's a little bit of a rebel thing. And I ended up talking to the folks at Cliff Bar at a pretty high level. But as soon as they got out of the news cycle, they just didn't care anymore. That wasn't. They were worried about the press of it. They didn't have an ethos of it, at least in the same way that we do. Yeah, it's hard going against the big guys, but that is what it is. That's part of the business.
Well, and I think, too, encouraging and educating people just to know what they're looking at. I personally never thought about going as far as, as a purpose-driven company, going so far as looking at the labeling and the packaging and everything in alignment with the ethos of the content of the bars. I think that's brilliant because it's all about the impact that you're making on the planet in general, both humans and environmentally. So I think
it does mean, though, from a positioning standpoint, it's hard because it is a premium bar then, right? It costs us between 5 and 10 cents for the wrapper for a bar. And there was another kind of interesting positioning piece here, which is you want to maximize on things that you can monopolize. Not in a bad way, but being handmade, those guys can't be handmade. They probably can't be all organic, and they probably can't do compostable wrappers. They're just too big for it. We would love to get big enough that we could make it more of a thing that everybody could use just through the supply and demand issues of compostable wrapping and such. But it does give us an advantage. So being smaller, more nimble, you have to use those when you have them.
Is the company a B Corp?
It's a not right now. It's a C Corp. We've talked about it, and it's definitely on our radar of things to do. But because we have investors, part of that structure makes it easier, at least in the beginning, to be a C Corp.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about the investors. So how difficult was it to raise the money needed, and are you still continuing to need more funds, and where would those funds be allocated?
Yeah, great question. We have raised a couple of rounds of money. Mostly at the early stages like this, you're talking to angel investors. They have to be accredited investors. And most of the people either knew me, and so they're coming in because of my background and the companies I've sold before and them being involved in those. Or we have over half of our investors are people who really know LivBars, knew Jan and Gabe, understand what the brand's trying to do, love the brand itself. As we grow bigger, there will probably be a crossover point where we're going to have to decide if we're going to grow organically or if we're really going to do like a venture capital round where you basically have a small fire and they come in and say, look, we're going to dump a ton of gasoline on this fire, which is they want to put tons of money in it to grow it faster, bigger. That's not always the greatest thing for the current investors. It kind of depends what it looks like down the road. So it's just, stuff that is my area of research expertise, angel investor returns and venture returns. So, we have to be methodical and make good decisions around those things. Most companies don't have that kind of a background. Most of them are, and I didn't certainly when I started my first companies, where you're just, you start a company and you're growing the thing, and all of a sudden people want to put money in, and now there's solution, and it gets complicated quickly.
And how long has this business been in business from its origination date to where you are now?
It was founded in 2012.
Okay, because that was going to be a question I was going to ask. Is there like a shelf life for investors? For example, like if you haven't shown significant growth in the first 6 years, five to 6 years of the business, does that make you less likely to be able to gain angel investing or investment funding, or do they like to see a growth trajectory over a certain 3 to 5 to 10 year window before they're willing to invest?
Yeah, when you're raising money, the companies that raise money and the companies that get acquired have a crazy growth rate over a relatively short period of time. So you want to grow as fast as you can. You want to use the investment money. You asked this question a little bit earlier, like what's the money for? You want to grow your market as fast as you can in that scenario. So that's kind of the model. You need to use the money. It's one of the things that's really hard when you're an entrepreneur, when you bootstrap something, because you're always trying to conserve your money. You're not doing the expensive marketing things. You're not hiring a bigger team. You're keeping your powder dry, and you're slowly building it and then taking the returns and reinvesting them. The venture model is totally different, where what you're doing is you're saying, hey, we're going to have investors put a bunch of money in, and then we're going to spend that money in a right manner and in a frugal way, but to grow the business faster. And then that's the companies that you'll know of are usually the companies that have grown fast. Those are the ones everybody talks about. So you're trying to get there.
Well, we've got about a minute.
Because I think we're up against a break, right?
Well, we've got about a minute left, so go ahead.
So in that 60 seconds, tell us really quickly what type of team that you would, or when we come back, I guess, let's talk about the team and how you're going to scale that and where you're going to put your emphasis in building out your team.
Okay.
We're going to we'll take a break right now. Sorry. We're just going to take a break right now. KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. We'll be right back.
The shows must go on. The Main in Santa Clarita is your destination for free online music, theater, art, and entertainment opportunities. Tune into fun variety nights, join a talent show, learn from filmmaking experts, attend a modern play, and more from the comfort of your home. For more information and to view upcoming events, go to facebook.com/themain-newhall or at themain.org. Enjoy the shows.
Your business sign is essential to getting customers to your location. Feathers can help you get your business noticed. Feathers, now in a new larger space with plenty of parking. They walk you through each phase of your project with special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will provide you a sign that you can be proud of. Your sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Visit Feathers online at feathersigns.com or go to Feathers' brand new bigger location at 26017 Huntington Drive off Rye Canyon or call 298-9442.
It's no wonder people love Baskin-Robbins. 31 delicious flavors of ice cream. Celebrate with your favorite ice cream served any way you want, including the special flavor of the month. Baskin-Robbins, now open on Lyons Avenue in Newhall under new Santa Clarita family ownership, is the first Southern California hybrid design store for Baskin-Robbins and the oldest location in Santa Clarita, over 45 years. America's favorite neighborhood ice cream shop is just one scoop away. Baskin-Robbins, the perfect dessert for your next celebration.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the law office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the law office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We have the CEO of LivBar. And before we took break, we were talking about team stuff. And I had a follow-up, a part of that question, and I wanted to tell everybody, when I first went to a VC myself, the people told me, they asked me the question, what are you going to do with the money? And what I said is, I'm going to hire people that are smarter than myself. And the VC loved it when I said that to them. So a similar question. And Tracy, don't say that everybody else is smarter, but
how did you know what I was thinking? You were reading my mind. Oh no. So let's talk about.
So let's talk about building a team. Let's talk about building a team and getting the right people, because quite honestly, I think that's a huge requirement. If you can pick the right people, that's very, very important. If you pick the wrong people, it can be a detrimental effect. So can you get into the team building and those type of concepts?
Sure. I had a big advantage here because I had 10 years of MBA students, and I had MBA students who went out and went into the world and were successful, who then wanted to, when I started something, come back and work with me to build up a company. So my director of marketing operations was the director of marketing operations at Adidas. And so that's what she's doing for us. And we have our top sales guy was one of the top sales guys in New York Life. And so I brought them back as my core team. I'd known them a long time. I knew they were good students, my best students. And then, it's the most important thing you can do. It's really hard when you have, and this might sound somewhat conceited as a company, but it's really not meant that way, which is it's hard to find people who are A players, who are very good, who don't worry about people kind of when you hire them that are going to take over their positions or anything. But if you have that team, that really doesn't work well for people who aren't A players. People aren't very patient. And so you have to find really good people or they get chewed up and spit out pretty quickly. We've had some of those issues where we brought some people in who weren't working at the same speed or capacity that we were working at, and you just have to let them go. They just don't fit in. But the team, if you can find a team of A players, it's what you get from somebody with that caliber is 10 times what you would get from somebody who's just kind of coming in, doing their job, and going back home. People are thinking all the time about innovative things they can do. They have a passion for it. But especially during COVID, it's been really hard finding good people. That's one of the other things when you're talking about the growth and the growth trajectory. It's been crazy hard to basically have this amazing growth trajectory and then for 18 months have everything slow down and now start picking back up. We've been growing over that time, but it's been really hard for people, especially emerging brands, because you can't sample in stores. We are doing it now, but you couldn't for a long time.
What about company culture? Because isn't that tied into that whole concept about finding the right people, that you have to they fit the culture that you have?
Yeah, for sure. We have a great culture. Our culture it's a very flat organization, and it's a very open organization. So in part because, I've trained, my top generals on entrepreneurship and venture investing. So things that you normally wouldn't share with some of your management team on the fundraising side and some of the other things, we openly talk about all of those things. You do have to be careful, because when you're talking about those kinds of things with different employees, that might confuse them, or there are a lot of people who just want to come in and do their job, and if you start talking about, like, here's strategies and we're doing that and this other thing, that sometimes they just get agitated about it. And so you have to be careful. But you want a very strong management team who can then have those discussions with the people who report to them. And then, we want the place to be fun. It's been hard with COVID because everybody's a little bit just generally depressed, but it needs to be fun. You need to enjoy your job. You need to be making a good product, something that you really feel good about. And so we have a big advantage on that front, just because of the type of product that it is.
And do you eat the LivBar?
I do.
I gotta ask. Hey, how do you sell something if you don't eat it yourself, right?
I eat them with coffee every morning. They are delicious.
I love it. What if he said no? That would have been terrible.
He would have had his resignation. I don't know. Anyway, Traci, we've got about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, so go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'd just like to dig in. You've mentioned your professional expertise in terms of being a professor. What are some of the challenges, if you could, in a nutshell, what are some of the challenges that you've seen your students face, entrepreneurs face, and can they overcome some of those? Just super quick, top 3 maybe.
Yeah, the biggest one is that you need to get feedback from customers. You can't just sit in a room and come up with these great ideas and think it's going to work. I think it was Mike Tyson who said, everybody has a game plan or a fight plan of what they're going to do until they get punched in the face. And it's maybe a horrible analogy, but that's really what happens, which is you come up with all these great ideas and all this financials and everything else, and you go out to the market, and the market's like, yeah, I don't like it. I'm not interested. I'm not going to buy it. And so you need to have that repetitive feedback. That's the biggest thing in entrepreneurship, is going to the customer, talking to the customer, and having the customer come back and tell you what they like and what you want to change, and you have to take that to heart, and you have to make those changes, or you kind of have to get out of the business and do something different.
And
that's the biggest one.
Said, but isn't building the plan probably the hardest part for a visionary entrepreneur? I feel like that is a big struggle sometimes, is even building the plan before you get punched in the face.
Yes. So plans aren't like they used to be. There was a book called Getting to Plan B that came out. I think Kleiner Perkins guys wrote it. And generally, people aren't following plans or writing plans. As a venture capitalist investor, we don't see plans like we used to. It's more, give us the pitch decks.
Thanks a lot. I hate to do this to you, but the show is over, and we got to take a... Thank you very much. I told you.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM.